Welcome! Today we are going to journey right into the heart of Jewish mysticism. We're going to explore its core ideas, its really intricate maps of the cosmos, and, get this, its surprisingly modern connection to the world of psychology. Okay, let's dive right in.
So I want you to imagine something. You're young, you're a passionate scholar, and you've found your life's calling. You go to see one of the world's top experts in your field, you ask him about the very books you want to dedicate your life to, and that is his response. Just devastating, right?
Well, that is exactly what happened to Gershom Shalom. You see, back in the early 20th century, he went to a prominent rabbi, a guy who was considered the expert on Kabbalah, only to be met with just total contempt. But you know what? That dismissal didn't stop him. No, it lit a fire. Shalom would go on to pretty much single-handedly revive the entire academic study of Jewish mysticism.
So that brings up a huge question. How did a field of study this rich, this complex, get labeled as trash in the first place? This is the story of how a whole intellectual tradition was basically shoved aside, and how one scholar made it his mission to bring it back into the light.
Okay, so in the 19th century, there was this movement called the science of Judaism. The idea was to apply these really rigorous, rational, academic methods to Jewish history. And these scholars, they were focused on logic and history, and they were frankly embarrassed by mysticism. To them, Kabbalah was just superstitious nonsense, a relic that just didn't fit with their modern, enlightened view of Judaism.
But for Sholem? No way! He saw it completely differently. To him, this wasn't some embarrassing footnote to be hidden away. It was a vital, authentic, and totally indigenous part of the Jewish tradition. He basically believed that to really understand Judaism, you had to understand its mystical heart. His entire life's work was about proving that this trash was actually treasure.
So Sholem's quest really opened up this incredibly rich and complex world for all of us. And to follow in his footsteps, we gotta start with the basics. Let's ask the big question, what exactly is Kabbalah?
At its core, Kabbalah is all about trying to understand the hidden, secret nature of God, the universe, and our relationship to all of it. The word itself comes from the Hebrew word for to receive or tradition, and that kind of hints at the secret wisdom passed down through generations, all with the goal of creating a direct, personal connection with the divine.
One of its most ancient and foundational texts is the Sefer Yetzirah, which means the Book of Creation. It's this short, super cryptic work that describes a universe that wasn't just made, but was carefully, meticulously formed through this divine dance of numbers, sounds, and, this is key, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet.
Now, here's something you might find interesting. You'll see the names spelled in different ways, and it's not just a typo. It actually tells a story of how these mystical ideas have been adopted and changed over time. So, Kabbalah with a K, that's the original Jewish tradition. With a C, it's the Christian adaptation, and with a Q, it's a more universal, hermetic tradition that kind of blends together a lot of different esoteric paths.
All right, let's move on to the most famous symbol in all of Kabbalah. It's a diagram that's said to be a map of creation itself, a map of the divine, and, most importantly, a map of you. This is the Tree of Life.
Kabbalists see the Tree of Life as a blueprint for, well, everything. It's a map of how the infinite, unknowable divine essence flows down to create the universe we see. But, and this is the cool part, it's also a map of the human mind and even a symbolic map of our physical body. It's the whole universe and it's you, all at the same time.
So how does it work? Well, the structure is made of 10 spheres, and these are called sephirot. Think of them as the fundamental qualities or emanations through which the infinite divine shows itself. These 10 sephirot are connected by 22 distinct paths, which, hey, correspond to those 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet we mentioned before. Each path represents its own unique spiritual journey. I mean, that's a whole other explainer right there.
This divine energy flows down in a very specific way, almost like a waterfall from pure potential into our reality. It all starts at the top with Keter, the crown, this pure, unknowable will that's way beyond our comprehension. Then it steps down into the mind, with Chokmah, that boundless flash of raw wisdom, and Bina, the ability to actually process and give form to that wisdom. From there, it moves into the heart, balancing these expansive forces like Chesed, or kindness, with restrictive ones like Gavora, or discipline, and they find harmony in Tiferet, which is beauty. It keeps flowing down until it finally lands in Malkuth, the kingdom, our physical, tangible, everyday world.
And this is what gives it structure.
The Sephirot aren't just a random shopping list. They're organized into 3 pillars. On the right, you've got the pillar of mercy, all those expansive giving forces. On the left, you've got the pillar of severity, the restrictive, disciplined forces. And right down the middle, you have the pillar of equilibrium, the one that creates balance and harmony between the other two.
So the really crucial point here is how these pillars interact. This isn't a story about good versus evil. It's about the dynamic tension that actually creates reality itself. And that brings us to the core Kabbalistic concept of polarity.
So how is the universe actually built and kept going? Kabbalah's answer is just fascinating. It's not through one single all-powerful force. Instead, it's through a constant creative tension between 2 fundamental opposites. And that's polarity. It's the idea that everything, and I mean everything, is structured by this dynamic dance of opposing yet totally complementary forces. This constant push and pull isn't some flaw in the system. It is the system. It's the very engine of creation and the absolute key to spiritual growth.
Think of it like a cosmic dance. On one side, you have chesed, or kindness, this expansive, outward-flowing force of pure giving. On the other side, you have gevura, or discipline, a contracting, restrictive force that provides structure and form. See, too much expansion, and everything just flies apart. But too much restriction, and nothing can ever grow. You need both.
The goal, then, isn't to choose kindness over discipline or expansion over contraction. According to Kabbalah, true spiritual growth, true wholeness, comes from walking that middle pillar. It's all about finding that perfect balance point, that fulcrum where these opposing forces aren't fighting anymore, but are integrated into a beautiful, harmonious whole.
And this is where things get really, really interesting. Because this ancient spiritual map of the cosmos, it turns out to be a stunningly modern map of the human mind. The parallels to 20th century psychology are just uncanny. I mean, think about the giants of modern psychology. You have someone like Alfred Adler, who argued that our core drive is a striving for unity, a need to balance who we are inside with the demands of the world outside. And then, of course, you have Carl Jung, who talked about universal archetypes and how the journey to wholeness means integrating all the different energies inside ourselves, especially the parts we try to hide away.
That sounds incredibly familiar, doesn't it? For centuries, this is what Kabbalah has been teaching, that spiritual wholeness is all about reuniting these divergent forces, expansion and contraction, mercy and discipline, to get back to a state of primordial, balanced unity.
And that is almost a perfect echo of Jung's core idea. He argued that the path to psychological health, what he called individuation, is the process of integrating all parts of the psyche, especially the opposing parts, like our conscious personality and our unconscious shadow. It's the exact same principle, wholeness through the integration of opposites.
And all of this leaves us with a final thought to take away. If the tree of life is a map of the cosmos and a map of the self, what do its pillars look like in your own life? What's the interplay between your expansive forces and your restrictive ones? And how are you working day to day to find that harmonious balance right in the center?